Welcome back to the Kudlow Report. I'm Larry Kudlow. So, new tonight, TV ratings are in, and the president's speech brought in 7% fewer viewers than 4 years ago. That 7% probably thought correctly they were going to hear the same old stuff, and they did. Now, we're going to dissect the president's tax and spend speech, talk about the new opportunity for Mitt Romney in just a moment. Also tonight, the politicians are heading home. The hullabaloo is over. 2 weeks of the Republican and Democratic conventions are finished. So, who got the bigger bounce? Who made the better sale? We will debate. First up, Obama took the opportunity last night in Charlotte to flat out mock tax reform and lower taxes. Take a listen to this.
Have a surplus? Try a tax cut. Deficit too high? Try another. Feel a cold coming on? Take 2 tax cuts, roll back some regulations, and call us in the morning.
Yeah, okay, so that might be a joke to Mr. Obama, which is why his jobs numbers are so bad. But I'll show you President Ronald Reagan, who showed us how to do it and what it means for economic growth. Take a listen to this from the Gipper at the 1984 Republican National Convention in Dallas.
Our tax policies are and will remain pro-work, pro-growth, and pro-family. We intend to simplify the entire tax system to make taxes more fair, easier to understand, and most important, to bring the tax rates of every American further down, not up. If we bring them down far enough, growth will continue strong, the underground economy will shrink, the world will beat a path to our door, and no one will be able to hold America back, and the future will be ours.
And his recovery at a comparable moment was more than twice the Obama recovery. Let's not forget that. Anyway, for me, Obama's turn at the DNC was boring. It was listless, non-energetic speech. We've all heard it before. Really nothing new in it. His strategy is tax the rich in order to expand government and government dependency. This president has completely transformed the Democratic Party as the party of big government on the left. And I believe if he's reelected for a second term, he would like to transform the entire country along the same lines. Now, that is my mini take editorial, but let's go right to our guests. Here now are CNBC contributors Keith Boykin, former Clinton White House aide, and Tony Fratto, former Bush 43 White House Deputy Press Secretary, along with Guy Benson, political editor for townhall.com. Okay, I put my editorial in, so I will go to my friend Keith Boykin first. I didn't hear anything new. I thought it was pretty flat for him. He's a great speaker. He wasn't last night. And most of all, I just heard more taxing and more spending.
You didn't hear the same speech I heard. I was in the convention hall in Charlotte when he gave that speech. When Ronald Reagan made his comments in 1984, the actual tax rate, the marginal top marginal tax rate was 50%. It's now only 35%. Corporate taxes were higher then. The tax rates are so much lower today than they were then. The idea that somehow you can't generate growth only when you have lower taxes doesn't make any sense, because taxes were higher when we had higher growth.
Yeah, but why do you want to have higher tax? Why does the president, I mean, he spent a lot of time in that speech last night talking about raising tax rates for the rich.
He didn't spend any time.
A lot of time on that. He didn't spend time on growth. He didn't spend time on jobs. I mean, look, all right, maybe I'm being too hard on him. I read the speech very carefully because I knew you were coming. Let me go to Tony Fratto. What did you hear? I, frankly, did not hear any change. He mentioned Simpson Bowles, but only the principles of Simpson Bowles. He railed against lowering tax rates across the board, and he talked about the expanded role of government. Government this, government that, government this, government that. Somebody's got to pay for that. What's your take?
It's interesting on the point on taxes, right? Because it could take us back to, December of 2010 when we had to do the deal in lame duck, right, to maintain the lower tax rates, right? It was the same argument. You can make the same argument today. Growth is not strong. Job growth is not strong. And so we need to keep tax rates low. We can't possibly let them go up now. But it is a convenient class warfare piece of rhetoric for this president to use in a campaign. But we know what will happen if we let tax rates go back up.
But he's never said that he wanted to raise taxes. All he said is that if you guys are serious about cutting the deficit, which you say you are, then you're going to have to raise some revenue. You can't just do it by cutting spending. That's all he's saying.
No, this is
That's all he's saying.
And I want to go to you, Guy Benson, because the point occurred to me. I actually asked Van Hollen, the budget chairman, the Democratic budget chairman, Chris Van Hollen, a good guy. I asked him about this last night. In order to pay for all this government spending that the Democrats want, because they believe that's what runs the country, aren't we going to have a value-added tax, a VAT tax, a European-style VAT tax, which is the cruelest tax on the middle class of all? And Mr. Van Hollen said it might be on the table. Now, I found that to be very interesting.
Well, we know that the president's going to have increased flexibility after the election if he's reelected, and I think that we will see a lot of things on the table, namely tax increases along those lines, which would be, in some respects, regressive and would break the promise to not raise taxes on the middle class. But the other point here when it comes to raising revenue, the Simpson-Bowles commission that the president called for and asked for came back with a plan to lower tax rates across the board and close out loopholes, which sounds an awful lot like the Romney plan. And so we didn't get any of that. We didn't get any of that.
You mean the Simpson-Bowles commission report that Paul Ryan voted against?
That's right.
The one that also called for more revenue?
Yeah, can we talk about that?
That side of the
I would love to talk about that. No, I'd love to talk about that.
It was the president's commission.
And they couldn't even come up with an agreement because the Republican Party has become so intransigent and so unwilling to go along.
He got some You're right about Ryan.
The party in general is
right about Ryan, but he got some Republican votes.
But the kid could not come up with an agreement, though. They could not come up with an agreement.
The bottom line is what we're talking about is history, right? And what we were looking for in the speech, to answer your question, Larry, was what does this president want a second term to be? And the truth is, we didn't see that.
I think
what we saw was
it was a very forward-looking speech.
In what way? I looked
where?
for
Did you hear what Mitt Romney said? Well, no. In order to make a forward speech, you don't necessarily have to create new policies. I agree. There weren't a lot of new policies there. But what he did was he said, "Let me finish this agenda. This is what we started, and in order to finish, we're going to have to continue."
No, but this is what he said.
With all due respect, why would you want to finish an economic agenda which has performed so badly? I say this seriously.
Because it actually did perform well when it had a chance.
I kind of liked it better when he referred to FDR and experimentation. Now, that could be very dangerous, and I could eat my words about experimentation. But if I was looking at such a lousy jobs picture, if I was looking at an economy which is getting slower, not faster, if I'm trying to make the case, give me 4 years so my policies are working, but nobody sees them working right now.
Right.
If I were he, I would want to make some serious changes and put some heat on Romney. But he did neither. No serious changes and no heat on Mitt Romney.
Part of the thing that, and I was also in the hall, and I think that the room was much flatter than it was for Bill Clinton.
A lot of people sleeping
on Wednesday night, and Obama came out as one of the worst speeches on a big stage that I've ever seen him give. The crowd, of course, enraptured, crying. They do their thing. They're the hardcore partisans, but they chanted 4 more years. And I was thinking, and I think home viewers are thinking, why? To do what? And I don't think that question was answered by the president.
30 consecutive months of private sector job growth, 4.6 million new jobs. Saving the auto industry, saving the financial industry, killing Osama bin Laden. I mean, you're talking about a president who's accomplished more. This is what's happening around. He said, you can't talk about his record.
No, you
should talk about his record.
It's ingenuous. If you talk about the record, then you're talking about the past.
They specifically criticized Romney for not laying out policy details, and he went and gave a speech that had no new policy details. What he said was, we want to do the same things, but I'm going to be honest with you, it's not going to work any faster or any better than it did in the first term.
Romney spent 20 minutes of his speech talking about his biography. It wasn't that he didn't deliver policy details. It was no specifics.
I will grant you, by the way, and I said this on the air when we covered it last week in Tampa, that Governor Romney should have had more than 250 words on the economy. Now, you're going to see.
And no words on Iran or Afghanistan.
His advisors have told me you're going to see him now. Your man's given him an opening to come in with job creation and opportunity. But here's one thing that does trouble me enormously, Tony Fratto. Obama reflected that he is looking for a peace dividend, that he wants to slam down the defense budget. even more. They've already taken $500 billion out. The automatic charge-offs take another $500 billion out. His own defense guy, Leon Panetta, doesn't want to do it. Obama is looking for a peace dividend to cut the defense spending and then spend that on domestic programs. And I think that is just absolutely, utterly, totally wrong.
Yeah, I think the question has to be, you know, are we in a safer world or are we in a less safe world? And I think the world is as dangerous as it was 3 years ago and 5 years ago. Now, we're talking about war spending.
Without Osama bin Laden?
Osama bin Laden wasn't even running Al Qaeda at the time he was killed. It was others running Al Qaeda, and I think this is well documented. There's Al Qaeda, and there are other challenges.
Osama bin Laden.
But how much
out
can we
there.
take out of the defense
Osama bin
budget?
Laden.
Yeah, problem solved. Bin Laden's dead. Problem solved.
And also, most of the top Al Qaeda operatives. The idea that the Republicans are saying that the world is not safer without Osama bin Laden. That's
no, it's
for
a safer
you.
place.
Tony Blair, look, it was important to kill. How could you say that?
It was important.
How could you possibly say that?
It was important to kill Osama bin Laden. But
what about the rest of the world?
Are there other challenges?
All I'm saying is
America's role in the world.
The idea of taking more money out of the defense budget somehow as a peace dividend to spend on domestic spending is a terrible mistake, and it is a Democratic mistake. You do not hear Republicans saying that. I got to get out of here. I didn't hear anything new. I saw delegates snoring when we covered this last night. Now, maybe that was wrong, but it sounded like snoring. Keith Boykin, thank you very much. Tony Fratto and Guy Benson, as always.